welcome everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. Today we're going to speak about something I do care deeply about, that is change. What is change? Change is a complex topic. I mean, like, it can be at the individual level, it can be at the organizational level, it can be at the societal level. What we're going to do today is like, I'm just going to be trying to present some ideas and some thoughts that I've gathered throughout time. And those are parts of lots of books I've been reading, conversations I've been having with people. And I hope like there will be some insights that will be helpful for you, both in terms of today's work that is connected with our wonderful initiative. That is, this is the second appointment of Fridays for Advocacy. So what is Fridays for Advocacy? We started some time ago a nice campaign that is called Life Beyond EU Funding, imagining a different role for youth and for youth organization in Europe. The main idea behind this campaign, it's something really simple. What do we want to do? We want to increase the operational funding for youth organization to this number, to 5%. It seems something small, but today it's 1 point something, and like it's not enough. Operational funding is those sort of funds available for youth organization inside the Erasmus Plus budget, that it doesn't require a project to be presented, but it's for anything the organization wants to do. So for those very important activities such as strategy, or such as communication, or internal evaluation of certain processes and practice. So as youth organization, we are advocating, so we are asking to change the allocation of the budget inside the Erasmus Plus youth funding. And this is definitely an advocacy initiative. So we started this series of appointments that will be held every 2 weeks. They are called Fridays for Advocacy. They are at lunchtime. They are very short and brief, in which one of the organizations that have been signing this sort of campaign will be just sharing their knowledge. And today, as I said before, we're going to speak a bit about change, because I think it is strongly related to the concept of advocacy. But I will ask yourself. So, in your words, how would you describe advocacy? You can, you can definitely write it in the chat, or like just open up the mic. What is advocacy in your own words? Don't be shy.
Well, recalling to what was said 2 weeks ago in the first meeting, I would say advocacy is a concrete action made in order to achieve a sort of general benefits for all, not only the people directly interested, but also, in general, for the biggest number of people possible.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Benedetta. That's definitely a good definition. Somebody said defending a cause. That's also something very important. I stick with my small, let's say, definition that advocacy is change. Fundamentally, like at the main point, as we were saying, is trying to change a situation. We feel that we want to defend a cause, we want to advocate for something, because we believe that a situation is not working. Therefore, we want to change it. Or, as Benedetta was saying, is a concrete action to in order to achieve a general benefit, because like still we feel that the actual situation is not working well. So in our campaign, I try to just like reframe it in a more change friendly way, because advocacy, I feel, is a hard word to understand. So we want to influence policymakers to change the allocation of Erasmus Plus youth funds. This is what we want to do. So this goes without saying, what is change? What the hell is this word? I don't want to bore you too much today, but I'm going to quickly present some authors that have shaped my own thoughts on the topic. In general, there are two main definitions, and like they're very simple to remember. Change is a general transition of something or phase to another state or condition. This is more related to thermodynamics or to physics. Or also to something I really like that is called complex theory. Another one, it is implies a movement toward a goal, an idealized state or a vision of what should be, and movement away from present conditions, beliefs or attitudes. As we were saying before, I think there is a lot of assonance between the two things. So as I was saying before, I wanted to share with you a couple of people that are very interesting in this regard. One is John Kotter. John Kotter is a renowned change expert. He's part of this movement that is called change management theory. In the book he wrote that's called Leading Change, he introduced an 8-step model of change. He has been researching and analyzing lots of different organizations that were going through a process of change. So we're speaking about specifically organizational change. But I strongly believe that these 8 steps are part of every change initiative, or at least like they have some sort of they have some sort of connections with everything. I'll just very briefly say to you what they are. They are creating a sense of urgency. Nothing changes if people don't feel that it's important, that it's needed now. The second point, the second step is forming a powerful guiding coalitions. There needs to be a champion, somebody who is willing to take the necessary steps in order to implement the change. A third step is developing a vision and a strategy. It's very important to have clear where you want to go. So like, what is your end goal? As in our campaign, you know, like we know that we want to change the number of people, we want to change the number of funds allocated to Erasmus Plus Youth. And this is very simple, and like it's a good vision and like it's motivating. And a strategy. We need also to consider how we will get there. Fourth point is communicating the vision. Nobody will just, you know, like since you've written down your vision and you have a strategy, nobody will take it seriously or will listen to you if you are not able to communicate it persuasively. Another point is removing obstacles and empowering employees or people for action. So like one of the main things we're going to be seeing today is that change, it is very much situational rather than personal. I will speak a little bit later on. Sixth step, it's creating short-term wins. This is also very important. Nobody likes to, you know, to have fatigue, meaning when you are starting a change initiative, if you don't have some small wins at the beginning, you will get tired. You will think that will be never possible to achieve your change. So you need to deconstruct that sort of initiative into smaller steps and try to gather momentum through that. Lastly, we need to consolidate the gains and strengthen change by anchoring change in the culture. This is super strong. Another author that's really nice, if you never heard of him, like I do consider him like very, very interesting, is Spencer. He wrote this book, it's called Who Moved My Cheese? It's a fable, it's a story. It's like something that can be shared also with your children. And like, it's really, really interesting. This is the guy who has been written also about 1 Minute Manager, if you ever heard of it. Those are two very influential authors that have been shaping my ideas on change. But the one that like did the most, my favorite one, is this book. The book is called The Switch, or as you can read it here, if you never read it, like it's an amazing book. The subtitle, as you can see, is How to Change Things When Change is Hard. Okay, and this is a book that went out in 2010, something like that, by these two brothers, Chip and Dan, who have been writing bestsellers since, I think, 15 years, something like that. All the books are really, really suggested. So I have no idea what like the book was about. I don't like to know too much about the books I'm going to read, but like I really got hooked by the title. And like how to change things when change is hard. And especially because like the main topic inside is that you don't need to have power and you don't need to have anything in order to change things. You just need to be clear in the steps you need to follow, okay? It is like a book that has been written like by researching really a lot of things. It's written in a clear and easy way to digest, and like will really help you to change things at all levels. You know, like it doesn't matter if it's an individual change. Maybe you want to stop eating your nails, or like you want to change something inside your organization, maybe do something related to digital transformation, or as we are doing, we want to influence society and policy making. So, and no matter your role or your targets, this book will give you ideas that were led by people that don't have any power, or like at least much power and resources. Let's see what they have been doing. So the first thing that we're presented is some misconception about change. We all think certain things about change, and there are some very counterintuitive facts that have been presented in this book. The first is that when people try to change things, they consume self-control. Okay, whenever we take a decision, whenever we do something that requires some sort of cognitive power, we consume some sort of resource that is our self-control. So when we are involved in a change initiative, like there is this resource that gets depleted, and we need to take control. We need to take into account that, because self-control is a finite resource. And whenever you are trying to change something, like there can be the problem of exhaustion. So you will be too tired to go forward, or like too bored to go forward, if you don't take that into consideration. Moreover, something that really stricken me is that what usually looks like resistance to change, like saying, for example, an old person that doesn't want to adapt to using a new phone, or like using, I don't know, internet and whatever. What usually looks like resistant to change is often lack of clarity. So people needs to be explained exactly why something needs to be done, and like how can be done. And the last that really stricken me the most is what most of the time looks like people problems. So like you are too lazy, or you are too uninterested about this topic, or whatever. It's most of the time a situation problem. So you don't need to work directly on the people, but you can work on the situation. And it's much easier to work on the situation. So what is in the end change is fundamentally a change of behavior, okay? The main point is that changing behavior, it's not that easy. If you want people to start behaving in a new way, you need to act fundamentally on three things that are the one I'll show you now. You need to act on their rational parts. I don't know how many of you think that we are rational. We're not that rational, actually. There is a lot of interesting research that like explains that we try to think that we are rational, but we are actually very much not rational. The second point you need to influence is your hearts. You need to speak to the emotional side of people, and you need to do it in a very precise way. Third step is the situation. So the third factor we need to work on if we want to influence change is we need to act on the situation at hand. We need to act on the environment around those people. So as I was saying, humans are not very logical. I don't know if you ever had the chance to think, I want to wake up tomorrow really early because I need to do that. And you will have to put an alarm, and you'll try to do it. But then what will happen to you? You snooze the alarm because you're too tired, and your rationality goes away. There is a lot of fantastic research that has been done on how people do take decisions in different stages. And like, we are not so rational, as I was saying before. So there is a super big tension between the rational and the emotional parts. And this tension has been widely investigated in research. And there is a very nice metaphor that has been presented by Jonathan Haidt in the book that is called The Happiness Hypothesis, that equates, you know, like this whole tension to a fable, not a fable, but a metaphor. The metaphor of the rider and the elephant. Fundamentally, what it says is that Haidt, this author, argues that we have two different sides, very much like the usual parts that we are divided, that our brain is divided into parts, but like a little bit different. We got an emotional part, our elephant, and an analytical, rational side, that is the rider. The rider is rational and like can therefore see a path in front of him, and like on his on his back, the elephant is driving actually the journey. So like, I don't know how many of you think that the rider is actually the power element in this metaphor, but it is not. The elephant is irrational and will want to do whatever he wants, driven by emotions and instincts. So we need to be very careful about this. I will just show you super fast video that explains that a little bit better. I didn't want to go into many details, but this is the video from the book.
Psychologists know that there are two systems in our brains, the rational system and the emotional system. Jonathan Haidt, who's a psychologist at NYU, came up with a great analogy for these two systems. He said, think of your brain as a human rider atop an elephant. The rider represents the rational system. That's the part of us that plans and problem solves. The rider might do some analyzing and decide, hey, I want to go that way. But it's the elephant, representing the emotional system, that provides the power for the journey. The rider can try to lead the elephant or drag the elephant, but if these two ever disagree, who would you bet on? The elephant has a 6-ton weight advantage, and it's exactly that power imbalance that makes adopting new behaviors very hard. If you want this duo to head a new direction, you also need to think about the path, which represents the external environment. This duo is more likely to complete a journey if you can shorten the distance and remove any obstacles in their way. So bottom line, if you want to lead change, you have to do 3 things. Give direction to the rider, knowledge of how to get to the destination. You've got to motivate the elephant, which means tapping into emotion. And finally, you need to shape the path to allow for easy progress. That's how change happens.
Okay, here we go. So this was just to reframe that like in a little bit more precise way. And like, I think it's really, really strong, this framework, because like it gives us something to act in any sort of circumstances. So like they, throughout the book, they've been developing this the framework that is actually can be adapted to any sort of situation, as I was saying. And it's called the switch. We got 3 different parts, as I was saying before: direct the rider, motivate the elephant, and as you read, shape the path. That is very important. Let's go to see it better. So direct the rider, as I was saying before, is our rational part. It is connected to what they were saying before. So like without proper direction, the rider won't know where to go. And inside this first step, it's not the first step, but it's one part. You need to act. It doesn't matter where you start from. Like, it's just that like change initiatives or any sort of change, if done through those 3 steps, will be more successful. This is why I'm trying to present everything with you. And inside the direct the rider part, there are 3 things that are very interesting to see. One is find bright spots. Find bright spot. So investigate what's working and clone it. Most of the time, we are not thinking about what is working. We are more concerned about the issues. And but there might be something that is already working. So for example, there is a very interesting concept of a non-profit professional who went to Nepal to work on malnutrition of children. This is a huge topic, of course. How can you solve the problem of malnutrition in Nepal in like a very short amount of time? This is not something that can be done through research. That's not something that can be done through, you know, like years, or like didn't have much money. What he has done is that like he has been looking inside his the community where he was working, if there was any sort of kid who was not malnourished. So like that was fed better and like didn't have any problem related to stunting and stilting. And like he found out that were those people, and he started to investigate why this was a bright spot, why this was working actually. And like he understood that like the mothers, the family of these children were actually giving them food that wasn't the same that was given to all the other kids. And they have been working together with the community to implement this new dietary that like it wasn't any sort of expensive and was really easy to adapt. And with lots of different parts, he managed to actually bring a change into that part of the world and create, or at least relieve, the situation of the malnutrition in Nepal, which is very, very interesting. Second step is script the critical moves. As we were seeing before, when I was presenting you the other model from Leading Change from John Cotter, there are some similarities, but this is a little bit more adapted to any sort of situation. So script the critical moves. We don't need to think big picture, okay? We need to think about specific behaviors. So what are the things that need to be done? What is the behavior that needs to happen in order to direct that rider and to pass through this whole process of change? Third part is point to the destination. This is what is usually called a destination postcard. It means trying to give something that is easier to understand. So change is much easier when you know where you're going and why it's worth it. So in this way, your rational part, if it knows where to go and if it knows why they need to change and why they need to do that, they will be much more connected to the activity, and it will be much more impactful your effort of change. Fundamentally, there is another story that I want to tell you about a change initiative that was very interesting, still presented in the book. That is a famous campaign that was done in America that is called "Some is not a number, soon is not a time." And was a change effort that was led, if I'm not mistaken, around 90s, and was meant to save life of people in hospitals. There was a big problem, or at least there was some deaths inside the hospital that couldn't be avoided by fundamentally making some small changes. And like this guy that is called Donald Berwick, was like a doctor in a hospital over there, started this campaign that is called "Some is not a number, soon is not a time." And he made this famous speech in which like he gave a destination postcard. He scripted the critical moves and started them to make the ball rolling by providing a clear picture of destination, by saying that you want to set the number of lives to be saved, that is 100,000, and the time, 18 months. And like what he's done, so he was making this speech and he started to speak about what will happen after those 18 months. That all the people in this room will start to celebrate, that all the life we've been saving will be much more worth it. And like, I don't know, just speaking about that, I'm feeling the emotion and the power of this sort of activity. So just try to frame out your own initiative in these terms by directing the rider, by finding the bright spots that you can have. There is always a bright spot. By scripting the critical moves, not just in terms of general things you need to do, but more into what are the specific behavioral change that needs to happen in order for you to change what you want to change. And point to the destination, go straight, create some emotional parts that can be given to other people so that you can communicate your change in a much better way. Second point, as we were saying before, the elephant is very, very lazy. You'll need to provide him motivation in order to move and to stay on the right path. Otherwise, nothing will work. So this motivation is not rational, as we were saying before. It's something that is rooted in motion. The elephant will need to know that he's able to reach the destination, so you will need to provide him some sort of support, okay? In particular, there are 3 steps also here, 3 things that we should be doing if we want to be successful. And the first one is find the feeling. As we are always, as we've been saying this moment, knowing something is not enough to cause change. We need to make people feel something. There were a lot of interesting examples in the book of how this can be done. I just want to give you some ideas on that. There was a change effort that was led by inside a company. They were looking for ways to cut costs, and there was this guy who was tasked to cut costs, and like he didn't have much power. He was just like a middle-level manager, and he had to present his ideas. He found what he wanted to change. Specifically wanted to change the procurement of the organization. They were buying lots of different products of any kind without having a central way of procurement. So they were buying in different costs, different quality, and what's not. So what he has done in 4 months, he asked an intern over the summer to go around and collect all the gloves they were buying at the company. It was a big company. And one day on a board meeting, he prepared the table and he collected all those different gloves, stick a price on it, and left it on the table. And when the people arrived at the table, of course, they saw this huge pile of gloves that's, you know, like that were really, really there. Like they had different prices and they were similar quality, or like even the same product that can range from €2 to €20. And in this way, you know, like he didn't present a case for change. He didn't tell them, you know, rationally, we are paying too much. I mean, like we need to change the way we do things. He gave them something, a cause. They made them feel something. They made them feel that like it's preposterous to buy so many different things, and they were losing money. So it was really, really interesting. Another part, it is shrink the change. Okay, when we usually speak about change, we think about something that is very big, at least at the end point. We don't need to do it because the elephant can be really scared of you know, climbing the Everest. So we should be trying to make the change as small as possible, meaning that we need to think, okay, I'm not going to climb the Everest tomorrow. I'm going to climb it in 2 years' time. Today, I will need to go, I don't know, to make a walk of 10 minutes. Tomorrow, I will go to, I don't know, make a walk of 20 minutes. In a month's time, I will go uphill. In a year time, I will go on a mountain that is like 2,000 meters. In a year and a half, I'll go in a mountain that is 4,000 meters. And at the end of 2 years, I will finally go to my Everest. Shrink the chain. The change can always be brought down into smaller parts, and that won't be scaring the elephant. Always remember that. Another point that is a bit important here, if you want another story, it is connected to the 5-minute room rescue exercise. I don't know if you've ever heard about that. There is this psychologist or this self-help movement who tries to, you know, move people into a little bit better life in terms of combating procrastination and living a little bit healthier, or like more organized in general. And there is this this suggestion that she gives that is, you know, like you don't need to start by cleaning your house. Just start with the 5 minutes thing you can do now. And like by just framing the 5 minutes a room rescue time, she was able to actually make the people start and make the people feel that they can actually change something, or like at least work on their problems. Therefore, they will be able also to clean the whole house, and like step by step, they will be able to actually turn their life around as they wanted at the beginning. Third point needs to be touched upon is grow your people. Okay, this is also something important, and it's something we speak a lot into our own youth organizations and whatnot. Because like here, we speak about growth mindset. That is something I really strongly appreciate. So when people make choices, they rely fundamentally on two models, I would say, two decision-making models. Yeah, one is consequences. So there is a cost-benefit analysis. The second one is an identity, and like the question you do while you take or while you make your decisions is, who am I, and what kind of situation is this, and what will someone like me do in this situation? When you work with identity rather than consequences, that is much stronger, because like that's, you know, like it works on something that is much more core for your own person. And So working on identity will help the emotional part to be much more connected to that. There is a very nice story in here from the fantastic book that is The Growth Mindset. If you ever read that, it's just fantastic. There was this this researcher, if I'm not mistaken, it's called Dweck. She was at this school that had very, I mean, like the students were scoring very poor, and they were on a course to, you know, like receive less money, because like budgeting in US is connected to how good perform your pupils. And what she's done is that on the first day she arrived in class, she just said to the students, you know, like, it's not that you're not good, or like you're not scoring good, but like she gave them a direction, she gave them an identity. So like from now on, you will be studying like a third grader, so like much more high level than, sorry, by the end of the year you become like a third grader. So like in a year time you will be much more higher level than you were. And in this way she cultivated their sense of identity, working on what is, you know, who am I, and what kind of situation is this, and how someone like me will act in this situation. And by doing that, by cultivating a growth mindset, so something that like the students are not connected to who they are today, but what they can be tomorrow, they will be much more stronger. And like they actually managed to improve their scores in a way that like was just crazy. Okay, third point. I'm just gonna be a little bit faster because my time is finally finishing, and I want to hear a little bit from you. The third point is shape the path. Okay, and as we were saying before, in the metaphor, it was really nice. It was just about clearing up a bit the path, removing obstacles, and making it much more clear. So, and it speaks about the environment around us when we want to change something. So again, 3 different points that we need to touch upon. One is called tweak the environment. When the situation changes, we need to change also the behavior change. So we need to change the situation. This is the connection. In the book, they were saying something very, very interesting that will remain with me forever. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but like it's a study on addiction. Okay, we all think that addicted people are connected to, in a bad way, to the drugs. You know, like they depend on it, and they will always look for it, and they will always it's something that is physical. Well, it's not. There is this study that has been done in the 60s in US, and like it's a study that has been done on people who started to be addicted in Vietnam. In Vietnam, of course, there was a war in that time, and lots of young people were exposed for the first time to some brutality that was shocking for everybody. And like also the availability of drugs was much, much higher than that they're in normal environment at home. And there was a big fear among the institutions, among the military ranks, that those young people who became addicted in Vietnam, who were, you know, using drugs on a daily basis and to cope with the situation at hand, they will get back in US and be addicted and be a burden for the society. But this didn't happen, and this is fantastic and miraculously for many reasons, because like we thought that addiction, it's, you know, like it's connected to the person, but it's not connected to the person, it's connected to the situation you are in. So when those people came back into their own situation, even though they were addicted physically and they were craving substances, they were still not as addicted as they were in the Vietnam. And slowly, they managed to get out of this sort of addiction. So this was like quite powerful, you know, anecdote that I wanted to share with you. The second point, it's working on habits. I'm like crazy about habits. I don't know if you read some research on that, but this is very, very strong. And habits are fundamentally something you repeat automatically. And like being automatic, you know, something you do it almost without thinking, it doesn't deplete the energy of your brain, your cognitive energy, and like your decision-making energy. So when we want to work with changing of behavior, or in general change, we can work with habits. So trying to work on building up habits and can be in many, many ways. There was a suggestion that I try to use all the time that has been, again, like very, very strongly empirical evidence towards that like if you want to start forming a habit, you should be looking to, you know, like you should be understanding what you want to do first. So which kind of habit you want to do. For example, is you want to read more. You need to put something that is called an action trigger. An action trigger, it's like when you fix your habits, you will also fix, you also try to imagine a time and a place where you will do that. And for example, reading, you will say yourself, you know, I imagine, or like, I will read every day when I'm before sleeping, 23, I will turn off my internet and I will turn off my own devices and I will start reading on a book. And just this simple fact to decide in advance when you're taking this action, when you're taking this decision, how you will do it, this improves like considerably the results of you doing that for real. So third point is called rarely the herd. Behavior is contagious, okay? And as we were saying before, it is very important to try to motivate the people around you in being able to understand what are the change that we want to provide and like in making that understandable to everybody. We are social animals fundamentally. And like there is a lot of research again that explains how we, especially in new situations, we tend to mimic the action of other people around us. And this is just crazy, you know, because like we don't rationalize that, but we imitate people much more than we should be wanting to do, I think. And this is a good thing for us because like by starting to work on that, on those sort of feelings, you can actually spread your own you know, your own change initiative. So this is the main, where's my time? So those are the main points I wanted to make today. And I wanted to leave you with this very, very nice quote. So for things to change, somebody somewhere has to start acting differently. Maybe it's you, maybe it's your team. Picture that person or people. Each one has an emotional elephant side and a rational rider side. You've got to reach both. You cannot think that just acting on rationality will work because like, as we've seen, it doesn't. And you cannot just work on the emotional side because like people need to know and understand a little bit more why you want to do it and what are the steps necessary to reach there. And if you also are able to clear a bit the path alongside, that will be almost sure that will be fundamentally achieve your success in this sort of action. So thank you very, very much for your time. I'll take some questions if there are, or if you want to know a little bit more. I'm very happy to reply your question. I hope that was useful, first of all. How many of you knew the book? People escape.
Okay, so if there are no questions, I think I have one. And okay, thank you very much, Matteo, first. It's inspiring to listen to excited people. And yeah, as you said in the beginning, it starts from a model, but it can be applied to different areas. And now that we are in the activist area, let's say, or the third sector, let's put it mildly, I want to talk a little bit more to ask you about this, the third, about the path. So this is the environment. Because, okay, I understand the rider is important, the elephant too, you can combine and so on. But what about the environment? What is our power to shape the path, to influence the environment, given that what we envision as a change is exactly this? So when we want to change something about the environment.
So let's think it about together, okay? As I was saying before, there is definitely something related to the situation. And something we can do is try to work on the identity, okay? For example, as I've been trying to speak with you on this topic, is working on who is a person that, who is a youth organization, what does it do? So like in terms of, and who are the people who are participating to Erasmus Plus Youth? So like if you feel that the people that participate to Erasmus Plus Youth are beneficiaries and are, you know, they are part of a community that want to help each other and want to further work on sharing those ideas, this is what we can do. So in the sense, it's working on identity of the people around us that will become our own champion. So it's not just about us working for the change, but it's like spreading the message and making our other people part of this community, working on, you know, like if you are part of, if you participated to also just one Erasmus Plus experience youth, you are part of a community. You are part of a community that like is willing to go an extra mile in order to support each other. And like by doing that, you are working on those sort of aspects. I don't know if I replied a bit to you about that, Boyka.
Give me an idea. Any other questions around? Thank you, Matteo.
No worries.
Okay, it's
Well, I don't have questions, but I just wanted to say that sometimes when I think about change, I often forget about the fact that change comes from not only the rational part, because the rational part is what I mostly think about, and I often forget about the emotional part and also the environment. And maybe probably the emotional part is one that affects most, as you were saying also, because if you're not guided by some feelings, something that comes from inside of us, we are not going to do anything. So it was very clear explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedetta, for the feedback. No, I love this one because like it makes it so easy in a certain way. Of course, it's much harder than it actually just speaking about that, as Boyka just pointed out. I mean, like, yeah, we're speaking about tweaking the environment, but how can we do it in a specific part? But at the same time, this framework has helped me a lot to frame the work, you know, like specifically related to our project, the one we do. Most of the time we want to change something or we want to implement a change. And like by using this framework, it would be much easier to think about all the necessary steps. And it's very helpful because it's easy.
so it is Friday, it's afternoon, 50 minutes are already passed. Thank you very much, Matteo. I think I can stop recording here.